told you that I never would. I told you I changed.
In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, PL 1975, Chapter 231, the notice requirements have been satisfied. The meeting dates for the year are confirmed at the annual meeting, are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the Municipal Center, and published in the record within the first 10 days of the new year. Okay. All right, the first item on the agenda tonight to be considered is the Senior Center and Library options for improvements. Okay. So, council members have questions, comments? Yes, Jeff, please.
Yeah, so I know at the prior meeting that one of the options that I wanted explored was incorporating it into a larger community center if we are redoing the library, the teen center and all that. And I saw that option wasn't one of the three options in there, was completely omitted. Not that we're going to do any one of these, but at least I want that to be on the table so that when we have a discussion, we're having a full discussion.
It's perfectly reasonable.
So I would say that we really, until that's vetted, maybe table that portion.
Yeah, we can, of course. And so, you know, we'll have a full discussion about it at the next meeting. We'll have that added. Are there any other comments from council members for what we have this?
There's a disagreement.
Okay.
Do we need, and I'm sure we can talk more about it, I read this as more, sounds like an engineer, I'm not saying necessarily this engineer, but an engineer at a relatively low cost should come back to us with the ideas. I love the councilman's addition of an option 4. I would say let's just do it. Like, I don't know if we need more. What I think we need is, we need a professional to tell us what it would look like. To delay it one more meeting.
Well, do we know that they're going to tell us what it looks like, what it costs? That's actually not clear from this proposal, is it?
So then let's quickly go back to them and just...
I think that's what we're going to do, is we'll go back to them and tell them that they've got to add this in and calculate how does that change their cost, because we can't just say, yeah, by the way, we want to include this building and we expect you to do it for the same price. We may have that conversation with them for the same price, but they need to understand.
Yeah, if we're doing this, I want to do right by the seniors on this and not just, oh, we have it tonight, let's get this, you know, off the table. I'd rather do it right. They deserve that.
No, I'm all for delaying longer. I'm not saying that. So my other question is this the right engineer? Are there a couple of people that could come back to us? Again, next meeting we'll review, reviewing one single thing doesn't create value for me. Could we ask a couple engineers to come back to us on these are the 5 things that they would recommend, and it's be $10,000 versus, I guess in theory this is like I'm going to use the wrong words, a no bid. We keep going back to the same person over and over again to ask for the same engineering. Wouldn't it be cool to bring some fresh perspective in and say, bring 3 engineers to come back to us with whatever we want them to come back with? What it looks like, where it sits, pick the 5 things, I'm okay with that.
We could do that. We can do that. There's no reason why.
Well, I think that's why I'm saying I'm not sure what this step is, and I'm fine with that concept, but I think what you might be talking about more is when we get a little more into the weeds, having maybe 3 different architects or something. But the engineers, just to tell us, you have these options, you should be able to do it for 12 million, 15 million, 17 million. I'm not sure.
But I think that's what I'm just reading the second page.
Right.
What the next step is, I thought from this piece of this document says, as discussed, the engineer can provide a report outlining the budget and process for each option for a cost not to exceed $15,000. So what I'm trying to understand is, and I'm open to all things, what I'm trying to understand is, I think the next step, I'm just trying to understand is, someone's going to come back to us on roughly what the process is and what the budget is. I think we said that we want to add one more option, which you should have known anyway, but one more option. Just 2 options. Option 1 is, great, we know that we want to take a look at this. Let's get someone to come back to us on what the options are, what the costs are. That's step 1. Step 2 is what I hear is, let's wait till next meeting To do what? What are we doing in the next meeting that we can't do this meeting?
So two points have been raised, right?
Yep.
We're missing one of the concepts that the council all talked about, so we need to add that in,
Yep.
right? Okay. And the second thing is, you've raised the point about, should we have a second engineer write a letter like this too? We've got a secondary group that's doing some work for us,
You have 2 engineers that are under professional services.
so there's no harm in asking them, unless the council's against that, right?
And again, I apologize.
You're next.
I'm just trying to sincerely try to understand the next step here. It sounds like someone can, and actually maybe ask the other engineer, maybe they come back for free, because how much does it really cost to think about, again, what I'm reading is a process and a budget. How long could that possibly take to do that? I appreciate and agree with Councilor Grossman. We're not looking at plans, we're not expecting plans, because plans would be robust and big, blah, 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 blah. I'm just trying to move this to the next step. This says, I will come back to you with bare minimum. I'm just going to tell you, it's a 5-year project and it's $500 million. They want $15,000 for that. I think someone should do that with the opportunity that they could actually win, so I would ask others. And I just want to know what we're going to wait, what we're going to do 30 days or 15 days from now at the next council meeting that we can't do now.
Honestly, without them here, I'm not even sure what we're getting for 15,000.
I wouldn't pay 15, is this
Right, but I'm not sure what we're getting, so we tell them, come back next meeting with X. I don't know what X is.
I agree with you.
So,
So,
none of us know. So I think all I want is the opportunity to know what X is from them. That's all.
I'm just fearful, again, if they're going to come back and they're going to say, I'm just reading the same thing you read, they're going to say, I would like $15,000 and I will tell you a rough budget, which I'm a professional, I can probably tell you that right now.
Right.
And the process. Well, I've been doing this for the past 57 years, I know the process already. So again, what I'm trying to do is twofold now, actually.
Mm-hmm.
One, 15 days from now, what are they going to do that they're not going to do, they couldn't do today in this letter? And then two, quite honestly, I don't know why I'm getting $15,000 for someone that I'm going to pay $100 billion to tell me what the process is.
All right, so I guess what I'm trying to understand is, are you saying we should go forward now, so that next meeting, we have something, but we're paying them 15,000, we don't know what we're doing?
No, I'm saying, so thank you. What I'm saying is, first of all, let's call the other engineer. Again, I really don't believe this is, because we're not asking for a schematic handling. I'm just asking for a process and a budget, an order of magnitude budget, right? Yeah, so let's just, how do we do this? Let's just ask the other engineer, would you actually do you're not doing anything, so can you come back to us on what that is? And what I think, and again, I'm seeking to understand, what I think we want is for us to come back on, yes, this is the process. It's 6 months of planning, 9 months of building, 43 months of this, and a rough cost. At $100 billion, we're probably not going to do this. The option, I don't even remember the exact words. Option 1 is $10,000, option 2 is $200 million, option 3 is, well, great, we're not doing option 2 for $200 billion. So get the other engineer, see if they come back. Again, in both situations, I don't want you to come back 2 weeks from now, Mr. Engineer, and tell us, I'd like to look at the process and the budget. Come back to me in 2 weeks with the process and the budget. If you need money, then I think someone else can do it. I don't understand why you need $15,000 for telling me that it's going to be 18 months to do a project. Is that fair?
I agree with you, I just don't think they have enough information even to give us anything substantive.
I mean,
That's why governments have cost overruns.
again, we're not even doing a project or anything, but I'm just looking to understand it.
You're looking for a process and a number.
Yeah, and
And
that's,
all I'm saying is that number is like picking out of a hat.
yeah, but we know that anyway, when we wait now.
that's why,
That's why the next step, similar to what this council asked of the downtown stuff, engineering, you stuff like that is, you have to spend X amount of dollars, they're gonna give us like the details of what it would cost to turn something into a 4-way road.
Okay, Venuta, please.
Yeah. You know, I think we have to put it in context the fact that this is for the seniors. The seniors are not necessarily looking for an answer tonight or within 2 weeks. They want the best possible solution for the best possible option, you know, for what they're expecting, what they want. And, you know, so our rush to do things is unnecessary. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like there's you know, and I think we follow the process, and sometimes process will be a back and forth, and we need more information. It's not always going to be the information that, you know, we have right now. We'll have to find out what other information there is, and we're asking to be able to get more information. The other thing is with the second engineer, I guess we can find out if, you know, if they were hired for one reason, and now, you know, if they're going into a different reason, will there be a cost differential in any way, or I mean, how will they approach it?
Yeah, if I may just try into that, yeah, there may or may not be additional costs, but to Councilman's point, they do not have any advantage of being familiar with our facilities and municipality as well as, you know, the borough engineer that's been retained for however long they've been retained here. So that would be an aspect of it that have to be considered as well.
Okay, so the summary of this is, there's 4 items. We're going back to Collier's. The 4 items are community center concept has to be added, discussion with the second engineer to see if they're interested in talking about this. We're going to define the deliverables better and have a better understanding of the steps in the process. And then this will be brought back to the council in 2 weeks, and then we can go from there once this is further refined.
Makes good sense.
Okay.
Because again, we want to do this right.
We got all that? Okay. Okay. Administrative
Again, I'm
report.
sorry, they're gonna come back in 2 weeks to tell us, no joke, in 2 weeks, someone write it down, because I know the seniors have all the time in the world and they're not interested in progress. In 2 weeks, someone's gonna come back with, literally this is what they're gonna say. I would like to spend $15,000, and I will come back to you guys with a budget and a process. Who wants to make me a 1 meatball bet? Literally in 2 weeks from now, but that's what they're saying. They're literally gonna say, I need $15,000, and what I will come back to you with is a budget and a process.
You know, the point is argumentative. It doesn't matter, you know, we are, as a government body, we have to look at what we have now. We have to take the decision on what we have now instead of going to hypotheticals. Let's say, you know, quick, Jimmy's going to go and ask, and we'll see what we get back. If we need to, in 2 weeks, then ask them for something further. We'll have to ask them for something further. But we need the best answer at the time.
Okay. Thank you. Next.
Okay. Administrator's report.
Yeah, just a couple items to add that have come up since last week. An update on Arresto Park is we're waiting on the final emblem. We've come a long way with the pathways, new pathways, upgrades to the existing pathways. So that'll be hopefully done in the next week or so. So looking forward to that project being completed. The Boy Scout, who is doing the improvements to the community gardens, is expected to start next weekend, depending on the supplies, being able to get supplies, you know, through donations over the next weekend or so. The Boy Scouts will be doing the improvements at the community gardens this weekend. Sorry, this upcoming weekend, yeah. The rec department requested, they were supposed to come tonight, recreation services department, to attend tonight's meeting, to give an update. They requested to come to the next meeting just between the community night events, and wanted to make sure to get all the information together. We could work with Councilman Michaels as the liaison to get more information for the presentation and update for the next meeting. And the final item is the downtown lights will be received by the borough this Thursday. We received confirmation that the lights for the downtown LED lights will be delivered Thursday. And we have the electrician already, he is aware, and to begin installation hopefully as soon as they get to, they come in our possession.
The Chamber President, we happen to know that in parallel with the painting, then how amazing is that? We should have done it right now, right?
We should talk to them about that. That's what I told you.
Progress.
The one other comment I just want to make is the Bliss Avenue Bridge project. The footings have all been installed, the actual steel culvert has been installed, and they've started backfilling gravel, so that project is progressing, which is good news, good news. And Vanu, I think you had your hand up?
Yeah, just a kind of question. You mentioned the Boy Scouts community garden project. I was wondering, we had kind of left it with the other project, the one, where is that?
So for the other project, the Boy Scouts was beginning to visit at the start of school, but he's been in communication with me, he's communicating with the various organizations to gauge their interest and to just get information from them. So that one has been a little bit delayed just because of the school, but he's contacting each of those organizations to gauge their interest.
Now, from what I understand, we didn't quite come up with an answer on where it would be. Are we going to have an opportunity to decide?
Of course. No. Yeah.
When will that be, or what will we process in that region?
Yeah, of course. Once the Boy Scout receives the communications back from the various organizations to gauge their interest, then we will then go to the next step and turn and see if it is a viable project, if he wants to proceed. Of course, something that happened without, revisiting the council is, it was, as you indicated, hasn't been fully vetted yet at this point, but it was first at this point to gauge those organizations' interests. See if they would be willing to want to participate in that type of project.
And the organizations we're talking about, are these the organizations that have their insignias on the...
Correct.
Or are they the ones that are funding it?
No, the ones that have their emblems and insignias on the board itself.
So does that mean if he only gets 2 people interested, that he could do it, or?
I mean, that's going to be sort of up to him and his responses, and then also, I'll be able to assist them, and then also the council's pleasure as well. If he only has 2 or 3, that's going to be a decision that's had to be made among the council. So right now, I think the first appropriate step is just taking that interest from the organizations.
Thank you.
No problem.
Anything else?
That's it, Mayor.
Any other questions for the administrator? No?
I just have a couple. At the last meeting, we discussed starting that action register, so we know that we're holding ourselves to the process and the things that we agreed to. I don't know if the clerk is prepared to share last meeting's action register and the things that we agreed to take action on.
Okay, so from my recollection, we had wanted to create a meeting for the Joint Use Committee. I reached out to the school board. I'm still waiting to hear from them to have some type of commitment on when that meeting is going to occur. That's what you had asked me.
That's the only action of the entire...
That's what you had asked me.
No, we spoke about the action register. We're going to track all the things we said we were going to do, and then let the public hold us accountable for the things we said we were going to do.
Okay, so with the action that was presented to the governing body decide if they wanted to move forward with that action item, tracking those action items. And there was a consensus as to if the governing body wished to move forward with that.
So we have to put it to a vote?
No, you don't have to put it to the vote, but the governing body has to agree that they want to move forward with that procedure.
There was a couple action items that were on my plate, so I can certainly update you on those if you'd like.
But let me just make sure. So,
Can I just ask a question, just so I'm clear? I think what the councilman's asking for is like simply, we have an Excel spreadsheet that says we've got these 15 things to do in terms of large tasks, not de minimis tasks. and that, what's the due date, where are we, is it done, to be done, something simple like that.
Yeah.
So we can put that together offline,
Okay.
okay?
So that's the government budget?
Pardon me?
That's it, this is the government budget.
Well, that's an administrative thing, really. It's not even, right, we're not spending money, it's just a process to report back. Okay.
So there are a couple I remember. So the first we have, bring up again, I don't know where we are with the committee that was going to start to look at the budget. We have.
Yeah,
4
so
months to go
I've been speaking with candidates. I have the first one who hopefully will say yes, and I'll be able to report to the council to get approval to use to get them volunteer.
So I know we said that last time. So
Yes.
Just give us a rough estimation. So this is, I think we're going back 3 months. Again, I'm not trying to be difficult.
No, I know that.
The basic thing we're asking to do,
Volunteer.
we agreed to do 3 months ago.
So we're working on the volunteers, and as soon as I have people who are committed, we'll be able to have a substantive answer.
Okay. How are we doing on the grant stuff that we're trying to do, and we all committed to saying, these are not things that we disagreed on, I'm just trying to be difficult. Grants, we said we're gonna get some people together so we could, try to find grants, we're toying with the idea, big CapEx coming, I know Councilman Grossman is very passionate about managing our money. I personally think one thing that would be really cool is that for next year, we don't do any CapEx that doesn't have grants associated with it. I'm all about fiscal responsibility. I think you're gonna put a group together or whatever, you tell me whatever's best. This is, again, something we said 3 months ago.
Well, just a small update, not necessarily on the group, but we did receive from the county, just Monday, that the next round of community grants that will come over, so that'll be presented to the council next meeting, but in terms of the group that's, council discussion.
Have we started that, have you spoken to people on the grant?
Yeah, and we've also spoke with, other grant writers that are available to, to be retained by the borough. So, in terms of a specific group, I'm not sure.
The intention was, again, we spoke about this, right? The intention was, and please, we spoke about this 3 months ago. What we said was, what we wanted to do was understand across the borough, the big capital, that we had next 5 years, what are the big capital expenditures? We need a new fire truck, we need a new library, we need a new senior center. I don't know if anyone's interested in any.
Those items are reported.
And we were going to get that list, and then we were going to identify grants, like ahead of time, because we know, I've only been doing this now 3 budget cycles, you can't apply for a grant 15 minutes before the number. So if we're not thinking now about grants over the next couple of years, you can't do it on January 1st or January 31st. So we said, what are the big things? Get a group of people together to help us think through how we get the grants, which ones we prioritize, whatever. I'm just trying to help.
Okay. To your point about 5 years, what we're spending,
Yeah, whatever.
every year in the budget and the capital spending is a 5-year projection. So we already have that. I think the second step is what we need.
Right.
But you want to put together, that exists. So I think, I don't know how often you've dealt with public grant writers. Maybe a lot, maybe a little, I don't know. I know it's difficult to find people who actually have any experience in that. One of the things, though, I do know is we hopefully will have a new member of Congress representing us who made an offer to us that if representing us would be happy to spend some resources helping us get those grants. I think, that's one of the ways that we may want to start to reach out, at least to get the ball rolling.
No, and I agree with you, and actually that was the other thing that I said 3 months back was everyone, our state senator, our assembly people, and our hopefully new congressmen have always offered it, right? They always say, how can I help you? Like, one, it's not shocking to believe, made fun of me. It's like, I can't believe you just paid full price for a fire truck. I just got, another town with a fire truck. Again, the whole idea is get a wish list. And I've sort of seen the 5-year plan. I'm not sure it's as robust or as prioritized as we need it, but let's get the 5 things, and then let's proactively, like now, let's make a project let's go to our congressman, let's go to our state senator, let's go to them, they're gonna look at the 5, let's go with 10. They're gonna look at 10 and say, 5, I can't help you at all. But number 7, I can help you with. You go to enough people, okay, let's get our Bergen County. We have amazing relationships with our senior, for lack of a better word, officials. Let's take advantage of it.
I agree. So we should be doing it.
But my point is, we're not. I'm trying to be intentional and say, who's on the hook for it? Let's put it in action. I just want us to hold ourselves accountable for making it.
So how would the council feel about entertaining a presentation by a professional grant writing organization?
I think that's a piece of it, but I agree with Councilman Grossman more, which is, if you speak to your state senator, he knows, like, what's good, what's bad. Like, he knows, like, you know, getting a new Ferrari car wash, probably not a good grant opportunity. Getting a library, like, if there was ever one grant that the government would give you, it was like healthcare, like health stuff, and like libraries. So, again, I don't want to, I'm 3 months in a row now bringing the same topics up. I'm happy not to talk about it anymore.
Go ahead, Julie.
Yeah, if I could just maybe, kind of echo a bit what Adam's saying, in the sense of I think, Adam, you might be looking for the who in our community. Because, like, for example, when I read the Amchat report, there's all sorts of environmental grants and things that I might read, and then I'm not really sure who would be the person who, gets tasked with that. Is that kind of what you're going with?
Sure, again, in everyone else's day job, there's accountability, right? And someone can put a name on it because you know that if 47 people are responsible for something, nothing gets done. So yeah, we're very well said. Councilman, thank you.
So I'm going to repeat myself again at great risk here about whether or not we have a presentation by a professional grant writing organization, because if we want to be able to hold someone accountable, so it's one thing if any one of us are having conversations with state senators or congress people, we all do. It's another thing translating that into who's actually doing the work. And if we want the work done, the best way to get work done is to actually compensate someone for doing it. And so what I'm suggesting is we bring them in front of us, they give their pitch, council can ask their questions. If the council doesn't like it, okay, there's no harm, no expense. Julie?
Mayor, do you think that's the best way forward? Then I don't see why we'd be against that.
Okay, so Jimmy, let's tee that up. And we know the first people that we would ask. They keep asking us, so why not? Okay. Any other questions about that? Okay. Next is correspondence. We have two letters here. Does anyone have any questions or comments about that, or is everyone okay that we do this again this year? Everyone's good?
Yep.
Okay. All right. We're going to go to public comment. Audience members wishing to speak will have a...
Sorry, I mean, I know there's a technicality, but maybe for the sake of, informing the public, if something that they correspond to that where...
Oh, sure, I'd be happy to do so. Did you want to do that? I'll do it? Okay. So we have two letters, one from Mrs. Moscone regarding the annual creche that's put up in Hyla Park, and from Rabbi Shane, the menorah lighting request, which we do, I think it's around December 19th this year?
It is on December 19th, yes.
December 19th, okay. And so every year, we've been doing this for a number of years, and every year we get the requests, and the council has always been more than happy to move forward with this, and I think it's a great idea for the community. Thank you for that. Okay, public comment. Audience members wishing to speak will have a 3-minute time limit to address the governing body on items on the committee of the whole agenda. Large groups are asked to have a spokesperson represent them. So who would like to speak? Oh, I think that gentleman was up first this time. Is that okay?
Fast with the buzzer.
He was faster than you.
Thank you, Tom Giordano, 12 George Street. I'm here speaking about the flooding that happens down in Franklin, Georgia, and Vermont. My concern is now is that stream goes under the stores on West River Avenue, and now there are plans to enlarge the buildings. Some of them are going to have 1 and 2 stories there, some of them have 4 stories. And the question is anybody responsible for maintaining or checking out the integrity of the brook or stream that runs under all the buildings? There's a couple of the buildings, I think you want to put parking on the first floor, which would be right on top of the, I don't know whether the culverts or whether it's concrete or cinder block. I just think that all should be checked out.
You've raised a good question. I think perhaps we direct that question to David Halls, the planning board engineer, because David is intricately involved in the projects there, so that, you know, we have some understanding of the structure. Communicate with him and we see where we go with it.
Thank you. And one other thing, I also mentioned when we go about having a technical brook dredge. I don't know if the Army Corps of Engineers does it. Years ago, it was the Berkeley County Mosquito Control Division, that brook part, you know, was water. And all that flooding that happens down in that part of town, all this is going into the technical brook.
Which part in particular you think is the worst? What area? By the high school?
The whole length.
What, the whole length?
We go right out here and walk across the brook.
Yeah.
There's trees, limbs, the whole thing. Needs to be looked at. I don't know what the process is. About 4 years ago, Demolition had their duck pond dredge.
Right.
So maybe if you contact them, they can send you the contact of people who did it, the company or something like that.
Folks at ours.
Excuse me?
The same folks at our pond.
Yeah.
Those
So
same folks.
this is a question for Andy and Michael.
And so maybe with the technical brook dredging, maybe there's some grants out there, you're talking about grants,
Right.
whether it's to, you know.
I know, you know, behind the DPW, you know, by the middle school that walk through, from the middle school to the high school.
Oh, yeah, that's worse.
Yeah, the DPW goes in there regularly to clean out all the collected garbage that accumulates there. It's nasty.
And one more quick thing, I know towns have laws about rare-green and overgrown property maintenance. The railroad tracks from West Clinton to Westerville is a disgrace. You can't even see that it's overgrown, there's branches, there are ragweeds. You know, I know what the railroad owns that, but I think they should be held accountable to maintain that.
Okay.
Cut the debris down and whatever. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Tom.
I think Cassidy calls them
What?
Halston for that. Cassidy calls them Halston for that.
Yeah.
No response.
Yes, please, come up.
Christine Efron, 39 Leroy. It's a question for Jimmy. You mentioned some community grants were coming up. Can you get a bit more specific about that? What kinds of grants?
Community block grant. Community block grant.
Right, community block grant. Can you be more specific as to, for instance, does the nature center potentially apply for that or other groups?
No, they're usually typically for municipal, sometimes non-profits, usually some type of quasi-government organization, counties, boards, commissions. So if they could, these fall under more infrastructure improvements, roadway improvements, building HVACs, parks. So that's usually more in line.
Fire suppression for the railroad station?
Potentially, maybe.
I think our truck is-
Center.
You have to come up to the microphone so we get to record your
Nature
words.
center projects, infrastructure projects would be qualified.
Good of those, right?
And work on the Star train station.
Those would, more than likely, but they have their own, Historic has their own, grants, opportunities that come out as well, that they release. This one, that hasn't been released in this one, but then we'll have the level of information for discussion at the next council meeting.
Okay, 'cause a lot of people ask me in March, why didn't you tell me about this possibility? And so I'm not trying to be cautious.
Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I think community block grant only applies to a certain tract in our town.
We don't have any census tracts.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure it's just the senior center right now. It used to be bigger,
What
but
about Grove Street?
no. It's literally.
Okay, so community block grant is income.
And we don't have any census blocks yet.
That's what I was looking for. Thank you.
You're welcome. Would anyone else? Howie, please come up to the microphone and tell us who you are and where you live.
Absolutely. Howie Seidel, 88 Willow Lane, Tenafly. Two things I wanted to bring up. First, I wanted great. I wanted to thank Councilman Grossman and his concert committee this past summer. Fabulous. We brought friends from out of town, nothing but raves about the concert. Everybody enjoyed it, and they spent some money in our town. So thank you for a job well done. And your committee. I know the two of you were involved, and I'm sure there are others that I'm not familiar with them. But thank you to everybody that.
More importantly, thank you for coming and supporting the concerts.
Wouldn't miss it.
Excellent, thank you.
Now, unfortunately, I'm here on a sad note that I don't know if I will be in Tenafly in the future. I live at 88 Willow Lane in Tenafly, actually home. Last Sunday, I found my wife upset because the neighbors had approached her. Apparently, this has been going on since April of 21. Two houses behind us are on Ivy Lane in the city of Englewood. Those houses have been under contract for sale. So what my wife was told by our neighbors is that a developer wants to put 75 units up on Ivy Lane, 19-21 West Ivy Lane, block 701, lot.
Sorry, waiting for the state address again?
19-21 Ivy Lane, West Ivy Lane in Englewood, block 701, lot 16 and 17. And basically, they're looking for 6 variances to get this project. So we were never notified by the developer. Nobody in Tenafly was. Englewood had a zoning board meeting this past Thursday night. The meeting was adjourned because the developer, for whatever reason, not to tell one person from Tenafly that this project was being proposed. Not one person in Tenafly was served notice. So by due law, they postponed the meeting. Englewood Planning Board is going to give them an extension until October 24th, the meeting, October 24th. And on this lot that they're going to build, 75 units on a 0.9 acre lot, it's 13 times over the density. They're looking for numerous variances, such as an 18-foot setback from lot property. So they're, in the back there, they're planning a large swimming pool, which I just love to hear everybody want to check out. Next town pool and tennis stuff. But I'm going to have this at night. But that's not my big fear. My big fear is this tower that's going to be behind me. They're proposing parking on the bottom and then 4 stories on top of that. They're cutting down trees. The trees in that section of Walnut Manor are tremendous. They give us such beauty and shade. To lose those trees, it's sad. The surface there is going to become an impervious surface of 83%. That water is going to go somewhere, most likely onto my property, because at the back of my property, it's built up a little bit to Englewood. There's a fence that separates, a concrete fence. But that water has to go somewhere, especially now when you remove all the greenery that's going to be. They say they're going to plant trees that attract deer and disease. Burgess, their planner, came out with a report, and their own report says that this is going to overwhelm. But the fear also is that they're proposing this with 91 parking spaces, so 4 or 5 in the front, the rest in the back, bordering Tenafly. And the report proposes that there should be 141 parking spaces. That side of West Ivy Lane, in addition, has no parking. Now, I know Tenafly has no jurisdiction over that, but the problem is that these variances, if they are approved, the other 8 or 10 houses down the street will be next. And this affects everybody in Tenafly along Willow Lane. That's going to affect the surrounding area. As of now in the morning, when you try to head to Dean Street, the traffic on Ivy Lane is backed up almost to Tenafly Road, same thing with Hudson Avenue. All the hospital traffic, and basically with the washout on Hudson Avenue too. This is just going to be a major impact, and not only for myself, but for my neighbors as well. So to have this overlooking you, the lighting, and it just really irked me, because when I looked further into the project, that same developer had two other projects that same night. Both also in the city of Englewood. So it's a land grab by developers is all it is. And it's gonna change the quality of life for people in Tenafly. So I want to bring this to this council's attention. You know, I don't know if there's much that the council will do. I know it's gonna cost us a tremendous amount of legal fees. The option is I can sell my house and my neighbors can sell their house. Tenafly was the town we wanted to stay in. And unfortunately, I mean, I've been looking for help everywhere I can. I called the county clerk's office, I got a runaround, they switched me to county council switched me to the county planning board. No one got back to me. The only people that have been helpful are Councilman Grossman, Councilman O'Connor, and Mayor Zinn. They've heard through conversations. But, anything that the town can do to help the residents out, the residents are really in need. And this is all coming up quickly. And the ironic thing is that this project apparently was denied in Englewood back in December of 21. But nobody in Tenafly knew anything about it because nobody in Tenafly was served it. So I can't tell you why it was denied in 21 other than to pull out their reports. And if they had hearings, those hearings obviously are illegal because nobody was notified. So, I want to thank you for your time, and if there's anything the town can do to assist residents, I appreciate it.
So, don't walk away. Thank you you were the first one who told me about this, because we hadn't heard about it, no one in Tenafly received any notice. So, we're gonna have to talk about this some more, and at the very least now, we'll probably send a representative from the borough to go to go to these meetings to understand what's going on. And we'll have an offline about the best way to handle that. How did your wife actually find out about it? One of her neighbors?
So my neighbor, the LaRue's.
Right.
Somebody from the attorney's office found out, at the last minute.
From whose attorney?
The attorney for the person that's doing we assume it's the person that's doing the work.
Okay, okay.
So what happened is, they found something stuffed in their door.
Okay.
Just a notice stuffed in their door. Nothing was stuffed in my door.
Right.
Something was stuffed in the neighbor on the other side. And at the last minute, my wife did contact Englewood City Hall on Wednesday of last week. So, Oprah request, who was notified, received written notice. And they actually did a great job. They turned it around in 4 hours. I have to commend them on that. But not one person from Tenafly. It's a shame because in Englewood, there were people 2 blocks away from where this is. They were all notified. So they tried to pull a fast one in my book. The lawyer took responsibility because what was he done?
Right. You've got to notify everyone within, 200 feet, right?
Yes.
Yeah, here it is. My fence touches.
You're on the property line. Matter of fact, your neighbor's across the street. How deep is your property?
Property's fairly extensive. It's a regular shape. I don't have the dimensions. I think it's I don't even know, but I think it goes back to maybe 150.
So your neighbors across the street may also be within the 200 feet also?
Oh, absolutely.
Right. Okay. All right. We're going to have a conversation with our attorney to see at least if we can get representation over there to understand what's going on.
And also, at least just check to see what impacts you will have on the town.
Right.
Because after looking what happened last August with flooding, I mean, I just would hate to see, something like that happen again.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, Howard. Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Yes, sir.
My name is Thomas Mikis, and I live on Royal Road, and I own a business yacht within 35 Washington Street. 2 months ago, I spent a few hours with you, and the topic back then was when Councilwoman introduced the food truck situation in Tenafly. It was very clear to me, it was an interesting back and forth conversation among yourselves, I presented, and bottom line, the outcome was, and I remember the outcome was, I was reassured for you that this food truck will not hurt any downtown business, and they will not be around downtown. Also, we mentioned that the hours that they will operate will be from 7 to 2, and that the products that they have will be coffee and some light snacks, I guess. But then, I was just reminding that I told you that you can't really control what the menu will be. And as a business operator, you can't really stop them from selling something to be compared. Unfortunately, it came to my attention that, and Jim was there with me at 4 o'clock in front of the Tenafly school. They were in front of the Tenafly varsity soccer, the soccer teams, that we all donated food, and they were selling their products at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Besides that, on the football games, on the varsity games, the guys in the street, they're coming and selling products, not only coffee, but also light snacks, in direct competition with the Tenafly Livingston Baseball League that I operate as a donation, as a charity to Tenafly. Mr. Giordano and me, we clean the bathrooms, we open the bathrooms for all the spectators, and believe me, what we sell, I don't think it's enough to maintain the person that is helping there. So that's back as a resident, as a Tenafly businessman, back to Tenafly. That's the way we do it. And that's the way he does it. He doesn't pay what he has done. So, what's the legal standpoint now for them to operate anytime they want, any place they want, when you reassure me, even after the meeting, that was not going to happen?
Well, are you saying it was at a, so I understand correctly, at a school event?
There was a potluck lunch for all of the soccer parents and players on Saturday that was held at the middle school cafeteria, but it was just soccer boosters.
Right, so I guess I'm raising the question, because you specifically brought up the schools, right? So is that if they're, I mean, I don't know the answer to the question, if the schools are using them for something, how?
It wouldn't have been the schools using them. This was something that was organized by the soccer boosters. We both have children on the soccer team. So I actually didn't see them there. I left before 4 o'clock, but it would have still been past the time period where they could operate under their permit, under the mobile beverage truck permit time. So outside of having a special event permit, which is the only other time when food trucks can operate in town, such as community night, etc. Outside of that, then no, they shouldn't be there.
So, I was told, because now I'm trying to find people to help me to open, because as you know, there's a tremendous shortage of everything. And I cannot even do it anymore. The same to open the baseball stand, to accommodate the little league, and at the same time to accommodate the football, the varsity, the boys, and the girls. So guess who's there? I can see them coming in from nowhere, selling their products in direct competition and directly affecting to wherever is there. And I don't know if you remember what I mentioned to you. There's a certain time when you open your business when you make your money. From 5 to 7, for example. From 12 to 2. That's the time. So again, you grow the business inside, it's coming 5 to 7, 7 to 9, right in the last. Take the money out. I'm paying every month expenses, but we went through that. And they're coming in with a $50 fee for the year.
But I guess let's find out what this situation. When was this? When? Okay, so let's find out. So we need to find out if they have special event permits or any of that stuff, or what the school might be doing.
Well, we know they don't have special event permits because the school doesn't have a right to make special events.
Well, the school can operate their own property.
Right.
Do special events on borough property.
Right. So
that runs through Jimmy's office. The question is, has the school, through their boosters or whatnot, done events?
Where was this held at?
The games are on the factory.
Right. So if the school is doing something on school property, they have the Boy Scouts selling hot dogs, as fundraisers, whatever it might be. Right. Right. All I'm saying is we don't know, so we've got to find out. Sitting here, we don't have.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but the enforcement is on the times. They're not supposed to be there.
I think what the mayor's saying is, and I'm understanding.
Go ahead, sure.
Understanding is, all of the things that you heard the council speak about is on borough property.
Or public.
Or public streets, right.
This
Right.
school,
Right.
making it out. So the parking lot that's next to Geisinger Field, or, the semicircle of the middle school, that's school property. We can't control, we don't set the rules on what happens on school property. That's their own thing.
Yeah, but you're setting the roof for the food does, right?
No.
Right, but let's, so for instance, if the school has an event, whether they have a coffee truck, an ice cream truck, or a hamburger truck there, because the school is doing something, we don't control that. So what I'm saying is, we have to find out what the circumstances are, because if the school is sponsoring an event, right, we can't.
It's not a school event. It's not a school event.
Go ahead, Jimmy.
By way of comparison, so for example, if Jimmy at his house, if he lived in town, wanted to have the truck in the driveway,
Right.
it was after 2 o'clock, that doesn't fall under our permit.
Yes,
Right,
but
so because, I understand, but I think what the mayor is saying is that he just wants to confirm with the school as part of our due diligence, so that
Right.
we can confirm that there was no other approval that was given. Because under the beverage truck permit that they have, they are not allowed to operate at that time.
Right. That, we're clear on that, so now we just need to do our due diligence to figure out what the scenario was.
Okay, so my question is, coming on the next game. The next game is on Thursday, for example, and they're there. What happens?
Well, we need to find out what's going on, whether the school is allowing it or not on their property. If the
Whether
school,
they've been invited.
right, if the school invites any vendor to their property, that's the school's decision. They don't operate, they're allowed to do that. And the issue is varsity and junior varsity sports, and those are school events. Those are high school events.
Right.
Right, so that's why. So we're going to ask some questions and find out what's going on.
Okay, otherwise, what would you do to stop it? That's my question.
Yeah, well, they're not allowed to operate, they're not,
Nobody asked.
yeah, they're not allowed to operate after the hours. That's that simple.
They would be contacted and told.
Right, they would be contacted and told that, of course. Okay? Thank you. Other questions?
Lee Cracknell, 27 West Clinton, Tenafly. Mayor Senator, members of the council. I'm very happy to see that you are pursuing the issues, we'll say, of the library and the senior center, and that you're pursuing it with diligence and consideration, and thought. However, this has been going on for some time now, and the issue with the library is urgent. It should have priority. To me, it's an accident waiting to happen. A leaky roof and tiles falling, very dangerous for the people who are sitting there, Tenafly citizens, people who come from out of town, your children. I think if the parents realized, had an inkling, that things were that bad, I would say potentially dangerous, there would be 50 of them sitting here tonight. Winter is coming. That means rain, hopefully not another Ida, but it means rain, it means snow, it means more deterioration. Didn't we have a few years ago where Tenafly Gourmet Farm is part of the group caved in? Fortunately, people were not in the store, but these things happen. They are not certain, but they're real possibilities. And I would hate to see anyone injured in our public library. And I would hate to see, I mean, you are intelligent, very dedicated people. This is a thankless job. So much time and your energy goes into it. I would hate to see the results, the anger, people moving into Tenafly because it's a safe place, and then have part of the roof come in and hurt somebody. So while I realize things can't be rushed, but rush is not a word we could use after it's been discussed for so long. I mean, this has been a known. This is something not coming up in the last month or two. So I guess and treat you like they do. So please see what can be done. I know the senior center, and the idea of complex is great, but I'm not sure it's viable or practical at this moment. We need pretty immediate action on this. And the senior center, I understand, there will be a new center. It will take months, more than months, a year, to build that. I don't think we'll can wait that long. So I ask you to seriously think about this in your decisions, and I thank you for listening.
Thank you. Would anyone else from the public like to speak? Yes, please come up to the microphone. Speak up, lower the microphone a little bit. That's okay. And then we need your name and your address, please.
My name is Elizabeth Frank. I'm the state director for Human Society of the United States, and I live in North Bergen.
Okay, get closer to the microphone.
My name is Elizabeth Frank. I'm the New Jersey State Director for the Human Society of the United States.
Okay.
And I live in North Bergen.
Okay.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Of course.
Closer?
Yes, you're good.
I don't want to stand on top of it, especially with COVID like today. I am here this evening to support ordinance number 22-22, which would prohibit the sale of dogs and cats by retail pet stores in Tenafly. Preliminarily, it is important to note that public records show that most pet store puppies come from puppy-mills. It's critical that you pass this ordinance as soon as possible, now that the New York State Legislature passed legislation which will prohibit the sale of dogs and cats in pet stores across the state. As this bill is expected to be signed into law by Governor Hochul, nearly 80 New York pet stores will no longer be able to sell dogs, leaving some of them to look across the river to possibly locate to New Jersey. This debate is not new. 134 New Jersey municipalities, representing 2 million New Jerseyans, have enacted humane pet store ordinances. In addition, over 420 across 32 states have enacted similar laws. As you consider this ordinance, I'd like to highlight a few key points for you to consider. This is a measure that your constituents want, that will protect your community from predatory financing, misleading and fraudulent business practices, financial and emotional trauma, and issues related to public health. Second, this ordinance will not close any stores or hurt workers in Tenafly. In fact, this ordinance will support small business pet stores that do not sell animals. 90% of pet stores do not even sell puppies, and that includes most mom and pop stores. They do not even sell puppies to remain thriving business. Third, puppy mills are feeling the effects of these humane pet store ordinances. This is evidenced by the fact that there's been a 30% decrease in active USDA licensed breeders and brokers since 2008. This shows that more commercial dog and cat breeders are not only going out of business, but many of the worst puppy mills have either been shut down or downsized greatly. Lastly, the time to pass this ordinance is now, as it would not impact any currently existing businesses and would be much less expensive than revoking the license of a problematic business in the future. For example, in East Hanover, they spent approximately $90,000 in legal fees alone to revoke just Puff's license. This ordinance will give Tenafly the opportunity to stand in animal abuse and neglect by proactively preventing dogs and cats from being sold in any existing or new pet stores in Tenafly. Simply put, this ordinance offers a fair, pro-business, and proactive solution to the issues I just discussed. For these reasons, and on behalf of HSUS, we respectfully request that you support ordinance number 22-22. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Hello. Please state your name and your address, please.
Sure. My name is Larry Cohen. I'm from Fanwood County, Union County. I'm a volunteer for the Humane Society of the United States, a colleague of Ms. Frank's. I'm here to speak also in support of the ordinance from a little different perspective. I want to warn you that if you pursue this ordinance, you will no doubt hear from New Jersey's pet store industry who thinks this is a bad idea. Their main contention is that our claim that they use terrible breeders whose animals suffer is false. Their counterclaim is that they source from only the very best breeders, and both they and their breeders are strictly regulated. Which brings us to the horrible 100, which is the Humane Society's annual list of some of the worst puppy mills in the country. I'd like to read you just 5 short examples of problems the Humane Society found at horrible 100 breeders over the last several years. These are direct quotes from inspection reports, either state or federal inspection reports of these breeders that got them onto this list. 1. One puppy had a leg torn off, according to a state report. The owner euthanized 14 unwanted dogs and puppies, refusing an offer to send them to rescues. Some were euthanized only because of burrs stuck in their fur. 2. All the water and receptacles for 45 dogs had frozen solid last night. The temperature at the start of the inspection was 25 degrees. 3. A golden retriever with 2 deep open wounds down to the muscle tissue had not been treated by a veterinarian. 4. The state inspector found a Maltese puppy dead in an outside doghouse and noted that the body was frozen. And 5. The whelping building consists of raised kennels over a concrete washdown. The washdown gutter was full of feces, old food, and maggots. A strong ammonia odor was observed upon walking up to the facility. Now, when you listen to the pet stores and their allies, there's no way you would ever imagine that any of them would ever have used even one of these breeders. In fact, they've used all of them. At least one New Jersey pet store has stores for every breeder just described. In fact, over the last 3 years, New Jersey puppy-selling pet stores used horrible 100 breeders 90 times. And these breeders are all licensed by the USDA, which the pet stores claim makes them immune from being puppy mills. Unfortunately, that's a descriptive term, subject to yours and my opinion. My opinion is that these places are puppy mills. Please, do not fall for the argument that New Jersey stores do not do business with a dog breeding industry that puts profit over the welfare of animals, resulting in much suffering and death. That part of this issue is no longer up for debate. The only question you have to consider is whether or not you want to be a part of the problem by leaving it open for such a store to come into your town, or part of the solution by passing this ordinance. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other comments from members in the audience here? Looks like no one else, Omar. Any comments from anyone calling in on Zoom?
See no hands, Mayor.
No hands? Okay. Thank you for your comments, everyone. We're going to close public comment at this time. Council members, any questions about the resolutions? Jeff, did you have your hand up?
It was already taken care of. There was a typo in one of the resolutions. It was R22-314, which has been resolved. I also did ask our clerk to just explain to me, which he did previously, because it looked to me like 22-321 and 22-323 looked to be identical, but apparently there were 2 separate word dates. So that would explain, just look fine with the exact same amount, same language. So I'm good otherwise.
Okay, any questions? I'm sorry, go ahead, Vinod, please.
So just on the second resolution, R22-311, I just wanted to know really, basically what kind of cleaning equipment we were talking about, because it's $17,000.
I would have to look at the resolution and look at it in detail.
I mean, it doesn't specify it, but it's our reference.
Well, the resolutions typically, aren't going to go into that level of, yeah.
And there was no back. It's only because it's $17,000 thing. And if it's big, whatever.
If the council would like, I could report back at the next council meeting. Not sure the timing of this. I'm sure it probably won't be any harm. I don't know the details offhand.
I have some details here.
Go ahead.
So it was a self-contained carpet extractor, a upgraded vacuum, and oscillating machine with solution dispensers and brushes. So I'm assuming that's for a carpet also.
So it's equipment, it's not canisters of Windex.
Yeah.
And I guess these are all included in the budget and everything like that.
Yes.
Yes. And then on R22-316, there's the additional road. Do we have any detail on the roads that were done, and what the cost was, and any other detail on it?
For what was previously done?
That allowed for us to have enough for another road.
Yeah, so we allocated, it was $1 million this year in this capital budget. And based on what the roads and how the bids came back, this was what was, this was a red road that was on the list originally recommended by the engineer and public works director. So once we saw that there were funds available, one of the roads that was left that was not able to be pursued was based on the size and how much funds were left. And then this also ties in a little bit also with the sidewalks in downtown. Some of those funds was pursuing the same contract, the same vendor through the Riverside Co-op.
Yeah, but the 130 that this refers to is just for the road.
Just for the one road, Lylewood.
So we did all the other roads for $870,000, or approximately, and then with the sidewalks, the sidewalk work.
Yeah, that's a separate, but yeah, essentially yes.
Okay. So I mean, do we have information on what the 870 consisted of?
I mean, it was just, it depends on the width of the road, the length of the road, the width as well. But, it was all those roads that were approved, that, offhand, I don't know them, but all those roads that were recommended and approved.
And then, on R22-322, was this, so do we have, do we have a stipend for the registrar?
So, just to back up a little bit, we had a shared services agreement with the registrar services for the Borough Military. Their employee had retired, and they were going to give an option of how to fill that position and other positions within their borough. It was then discussed with the council that we could bring the services in-house, since we had some certified employees to be able, with necessary certifications. So to answer that, yes, that was adjusted to be brought in-house with the termination of this contract for with the cost savings to the borough. That saved more than half of the contract costs while providing a 5-day service in comparison to a 2-day service to the residents.
So who's the registrar?
Omar.
And this is a deputy registrar, there's just the one deputy registrar?
Yeah, so, yes, correct, there's one. This has been a stipend in a position that's been filled. The individual is transferring to a different department that now holds the stipend, so there's a vacancy with that stipend. So that's why this employee, we advertise internally. This employee also is in the clerk's office, so it would be, it makes logical sense, and it's a young employee that would work well and close to the Omar. So that's why we're filling this through the vacancy.
Okay, so this wasn't, so this seems like it was a new position. This wasn't incorporated, no?
No, this was always existing.
No, meaning, somebody had accepted a new position, within the clerk's office, is that right? And so the deputy registrar, position, shouldn't that have been incorporated into the job requirement, or, for the new employee?
The person who currently is filling that role is changing to a different department and is no longer available to be the deputy registrar. So the person who is accepting that the council would have to approve the acceptance of, or the assignment of that stipend, is someone in the clerk's office, but they weren't previously doing that role.
So was the stipend always in the clerk's office?
It was someone in the administration office.
So that moved from administration to the clerk's office?
Yeah, and just to answer a little bit, to elaborate a little bit more, this is it's not a new position, it's going to different employees into the vacancy, and this wasn't foreseen when we filled the other position in the clerk's office. So there was no one, the intent was always to that, but we didn't realize that this person was going to be transferring to a different department, so that's why we seem to be backfilled. But this always has existed.
Okay. Any other questions about the resolutions? No. Okay. Public hearing, any question about this ordinance, or should we raise the issues of the other ordinances now, or no?
Yeah, we should at least visit the ordinances also that are set for introduction.
Okay, so if anyone have questions about any of the ordinances, whether the second reading or the first reading ordinances. When do you want to raise an issue?
Yes, Mayor. So in proposed ordinance for introduction, there are two that, 22-18 as well as 22-20 that have somewhat similar titles because they're both amending a prior salary ordinance, only it's different sections of the salary ordinances that are being amended. So they're being proposed as two separate ordinances. However, it was pointed out to me that the second one, I believe 22-20, is that the right number?
22-20, looks like.
Does not have dates associated with when it would go into effect. So I would ask that be held and introduced at the next meeting so that it can be appropriately amended to reflect that. That was not in the original ordinance, so I can't answer as to what the intent was of the original salary ordinance. So if possible, if we could hold that one for the next meeting and not introduce it tonight, I could go back to the administration and figure out what the intent was for the start date.
Okay. Council members have questions about that?
I think that makes good sense.
Good sense? Okay, I think so too. Okay.
So Omar, we won't be, I'll announce it again when we start the meeting, but we'll not be introducing ordinance 22-20.
Thank you. Okay.
Sorry, I noticed that,
Do you have a question with that?
Yeah, quick second. So we didn't, normally we would have as public hearings, we have ordinances and then new business as well, right? So we didn't have that section for work session.
Correct. It inadvertently not here. That's why I asked the mayor if he could ask for both, all the
Right.
ordinances, if there's any questions.
Typically, it would be here, yeah.
I just wanted to, understand, a little better the, 22-21, the fencing and identification, just to,
Sure. So it was it was discussed at the last meeting, I forget, it was for the good of the order under new business, but it was my recommendation that an ordinance be adopted to solidify the fact that there is the ability to provide for legal counsel for employees, officers, governing body members in the action of their duty, both current and former, under state law. So this would just codify the state law into the borough's code book, since the ordinance hadn't previously been adopted into your code book.
okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, any other questions from the council? Okay, any questions on the minutes? Does anyone have, Jeff?
It's not a question, it's the same thing that came up at the last meeting, that we're gonna have to bifurcate the minutes, because for the special regular meeting, we had about almost half the council not there. We won't be able to vote on it.
So we have to vote separately.
It'll be easier. Yeah.
Okay, let me just make a note of that.
I think we had everyone for September 6th, but it was August 22nd, we had 3 not there.
I was there for August 22nd, or that's when I called in on, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Separate vote.
That was, yeah.
Okay, anyone have anything for the good of the order?
Real quickly.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Since, actually what triggered this was Councilmember Michael said, you know, we have these things that are action and we don't always get to them. So this is real quick. Before COVID hit, going way back, I had raised that I think that this council should, whether it's monthly or quarterly, recognize our volunteers who work tirelessly for this town. We have tons of volunteers, and we should give them public recognition. And I think at that time, it was slightly different council. We all said, good idea, and then COVID hit, and we really couldn't do it. So I would like to just bring that back up. I think it would be something that we could do very low cost. I think I would even be willing to chip in with when we get the new council salary, I'll put my share in to give them something nice, recognition, and the resolution. Whatever period we want to do it, quarterly. We have enough volunteers who work tirelessly for this town. We could do it weekly almost. It's an amazing group, but I would like to bring that back to the table. Didn't President Biden say COVID is over yesterday? The pandemic is over, not COVID. The pandemic is over.
How would you propose that manifest itself?
So I would say that we should put names together from different committees we work with, and maybe we could set up some criteria that maybe they have to have volunteered for the town for at least 4 years. And we can pick names either out of a hat or some more systematic way, we think.
Okay. It's interesting.
But I think they deserve, people talk about we do our job, no thanks and all that.
Yep.
We do. We get thanks, and we're there. We get blamed, but we get thanks. These people are a lot of times behind the scenes.
Yep. Agreed.
Make us look good.
Yes. So I'm open to the details. That's the general, which is what we bring up under good of the order is general. But if anybody has specifics how they'd like to do this, my idea was set up a criteria. 4 years, volunteering for the town, different committees, boards.
Okay. We'll have to work on that. All right, anything else for good? Thank you, Jeff. Anything else for good of the order? All right, could I have a motion to adjourn the work session?
So moved.
Could I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go right into the public meeting. Ready, Omar?
Yes.
In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, PL 1975, Chapter 231, the notice requirements have been satisfied. The meeting dates for the year are confirmed at the annual meeting, are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the Municipal Center, and published in the record within the first 10 days of the new year. Salute to the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Could you spend someone, do you notice this? I was just saying it's gotta be fixed.
Okay, roll call, please. Omar.
Councilmember Deaton. Councilmember Grossman.
Here.
Councilmember Menon. Here. Councilmember Michaels.
Yes.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor.
Here.
Councilmember Park. Here. Mayor Sanders.
Here. Okay, I'd like to get a motion to approve the minutes of the August 22nd, 2022 special regular meeting.
So moved.
Could I have a second?
Only a couple of you who are here who can second.
Julie?
Second.
Yes.
Were you here?
Oh, yeah.
I'll second.
For the 22nd, I was here.
Okay. Omar?
Councilmember Deaton. Councilmember Grossman.
Yes.
Councilmember Menon.
Yes.
Councilmember Michaels.
Abstain.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor.
Yeah.
Councilmember Park.
Abstain.
Okay, I'd like to get a motion to approve the minutes of September 6, 2022, the regular meeting, please.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Omar?
This was Gordon.
Oh, yeah. So all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Sounds like we have 5 ayes so far. Okay, any revisions to the agenda, Councilor?
Yes, Mayor, we're going to remove ordinance number 22-20. It will not be introduced this evening.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
No.
Okay, it's public comment time. Audience members wishing to speak will have a 3-minute time limit to address the governing body. On any matter, large groups are asked to have a spokesperson represent them. Would anyone like to speak from the public? Okay, it looks like no one in the council chambers. Anyone online on Zoom would like to speak? Please raise your hand or wave or unmute yourself. Omar, seeing anyone?
Alicia would like to speak.
Pardon me?
Alicia Dawkins.
Alicia?
No.
Okay.
I see your hand go up, I'm sorry.
All right. She's faking us out. Okay, do you see any other people, Omar?
I see no other hands.
Okay, we're going to close public comment then. Could I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, please?
So moved.
I have a second.
Second.
Omar, could you please read the roll?
Councilmember Deaton. Councilmember Grossman.
Yes.
Councilmember Menon.
Yes.
Councilmember Michaels.
Yes.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor.
Yeah.
Councilmember Park.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move to the public hearings. All right. First is 2219 DPW driver laborers. Omar, can you please read the confirmation of publication of the ordinance and the title?
This is ordinance number 22-19. It was published in the, it was published in the Friday, September 9th edition of the Record. It is an ordinance to fix the salary, wage, or compensation of the employees of the Department of Public Works represented by Local 342, Long Island Public Works Employees, United Marine Division, and Longshore Association, AFL-CIO for the calendar years 2020, 2021, 2022, and 2023.
Thank you. I'd like to open the floor for any public comments on this ordinance 2219 only. Anyone in the audience would like to speak? Anyone on Zoom would like to speak? Okay, seeing no one, hearing no one, we're going to close public comments. Councilman Park, would you like to make the motion, please?
I move to pass and adopt on second and final reading ordinance 22-19, that notice of same shall be published according to law.
Thank you. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Omar, could you please read the roll?
Councilmember Dayton, Councilmember Grossman,
Yes.
Councilmember Bennett,
Yes.
Councilmember Michaels,
Yes.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor,
Yes.
Councilmember Parker.
Yes.
Okay, committee reports. Julie, we're going to start with you this evening. Do you have anything to report?
Yes, a few things from the Environmental Commission. So just with the community night, it was really successful for us. We did a lot of great outreach that night. But there was an issue with there being helium balloons. And we believe there's an ordinance in town that prevents that in our town events. So I know that Judy was just going to confirm that and make note for future town events that people really see that line in their agreement when they're signing the agreement for being at one of our town events, because we don't allow for the giving away of helium balloons. The other thing was, we had asked Mike from DPW for a report on our tree situation in town, and we lose a lot of trees every year. And that was even accounting for the ones that are replanted. So what I'd like is to, for the next meeting, kind of talk about this issue, but also additionally, my ears were perking up when Adam was mentioning to Omar about the joint use for the Board of Ed, because I think we need to, the committee was talking about, commission was talking about, the ability for us to have areas where we could put a number of trees back. And obviously schools lend themselves to that. And just more of a fleshing out of that issue, and I'll be bringing those statistics to our next meeting. But it is gravely concerning. Even though we have good remediation policies, we are still in a deficit or a delta of trees by the hundreds every year. Like I say, Environmental Commission, very happy with our outreach on community night, but those are just some things that come up. I'm sorry, one more thing, my health committee, they're working on having our CVS in town offer a flu clinic along with a COVID clinic, because I know we do some flu clinic work, but one of the people on our committee was trying to expand that, so we'll keep you all posted.
Okay, thank you, Councilwoman.
Thank you.
All right, Adam, do you have anything to report?
No, okay, just if we could just see Omar, when we can get this joint use meeting in. The reason why it's kind of important is I believe it's the kind of budgeting time now for the school board. I think there's a meeting imminent. It would have been good to get, and I hope we still can get that meeting beforehand so we could implement. There's a number of items that the school board owes us on the locks, which I guess in the field, just not making money on it in that either. So we could get that meeting scheduled in the next couple weeks. And Mr. Mayor, and you could help.
Of course. Thanks. Banu?
Yeah, so after a couple of months hiatus from the senior center met again a couple of last week, and we just wanted to kind of give everybody a little bit of flavor for the activities that took place over the summer, and maybe what might be coming up. So they had a trip to Lake George, which does, and everybody enjoyed it. They went to Asbury Park, and And they also, as part of that trip, I believe they visited the grounds for sculptures. Is that correct? And then, they had exercise classes throughout the summer that have been well attended, and then presentations, including the ladies in comedy. So they also had a number of luncheons, which were again well attended. So there was a red, white, and blue potluck, a Christmas in July, Aloha, and then just recently there was the rummage sale, an annual rummage sale, and bake sale that we drew a lot of people, brought in some good, well-needed funds, and so that was another one of these, activities. So basically, just to kind of send the message that the senior center is back in action after a little bit of time off from during the pandemic, but they're busier than ever. So they're going to Broadway plays and everything like that.
Bless you.
So anybody that's interested should get their September newsletter, future newsletters, and or reach out to Michelle. She's there was something else that I think should be recognized. The Tenafly Police PBA had an annual picnic held for the Tenafly seniors at the center. So that was a very nice thing that happened within the program. So kind of going into a lot of the activities, and we have our wonderful senior center people here, some of them. So I'm sure if you want to make public comment at some point, so that's the senior center. There was also a meeting of the zoning board of adjustment, and there were two items on the agenda. One of them was for a pool. That's still an ongoing thing. They wanted it in the front half of the property, and it's required to be in technically the back half of the property. But because of the shape of the property and the length of the property, it's a hardship, and so the board agreed to allow for it to be in the front half of the property. And then there was another request for building a new garage on a vacant driveway. This house is very interesting. Set up, there are apparently a few houses in Tenafly that have this. It's almost like a wraparound driveway that goes around to the back of the property and comes into the house from the back, so that you don't see the garage from the front of the property. And so they said, just taking up a lot of impervious coverage, and they decided they wanted to do the garage towards the front. They got rid of a lot of impervious coverage, and but as part of that, they also had requests for increased FAR and building coverage. All that was approved. So
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
I will attest that the rummage sale at the senior center, I brought a lot of baked goods home that day. My wife was not happy.
No, the banana bread.
Great cooking. Thank you very much.
The banana bread.
Well, the chef is here. one of the chefs.
Okay. Thank you, Benoit. Councilman Grossman, do you have any comments?
I have a couple of quick reports, and also one comment. I forget which senior event it was, but I was very thankful that day you moved it from Hyler Park to indoors, because it was about 1,000 degrees outside. That may have been the that I appreciate moving it indoors. That was brutal that day, and did a great job. Quick reports, HPC met, and one of the things that they consider is what are called certificates of appropriateness, CFA. I mentioned them before, I just want to make sure everyone understands that if a historic property needs work done, exterior, not interior, just on the outside of the house, it needs to be reviewed by the HPC to make sure that it falls within the historic guidelines. And so there's a property on Highwood that is historic, that the owner wants to do a lot of work, and the owner has submitted the paperwork, and there was a ton of discussion. The owner wasn't there, unfortunately. And so the recommendation was to bring the owner in, discuss all these issues, because they want to do things with the siding, the roof, different windows, I think, doors, and that actually impacts a lot of the house. And then it's not that HPC makes it difficult, they just want to make sure that these things comply. Most of the materials these days are readily available, they're not expensive, you can find them just about anywhere. It's just the details have to be there for their review. So that will be an ongoing one, the Highwood Certificate of Appropriateness. They also raised, and they need to discuss this more, but it will be an issue that I'll be raising when they get more into it. So people are always concerned about if their house is going to be designated as historic. I don't know why they think that it's going to be more work to do anything with the exterior. It actually helps preserve some beautiful homes and improve the look of neighborhoods. To help offset that, first of all, there are state and federal tax reliefs that are available for homeowners to do work. If you do a certain amount of work on a historic house, you can get a tax credit towards some of that work. So there's that incentive, both state and federal. But the other thing that they want to look at is many of these older buildings have been designated.
I'm listening.
Okay, thank you. A lot of these are older buildings with carriage houses, fairly large carriage houses. And so they want to look at how many of those are out there, how many that have not been designated that could be, and to discuss the option of could those, while Tenafly doesn't allow those kind of dwellings except to multifamily zones, they want to see, could it be possible to make it so that those units could be made occupied and livable as an incentive, that if your house is designated and you have one of these carriage houses, you can use it for rental. And it would be an interesting, it's an interesting, there are a number of properties that they will spout about properties right and left that are like that. So it would be something that, as they vetted more, I will bring it back to council, and I guess we'll end up with a planning board. Something to consider. TVAC met last night, so that's fresh in my mind. They had, in the month of August, 60 calls. So they're averaging 2 a day. Their average response time is, for those calls, was 8 minutes, which I have to tell you, having represented New York City and New York City EMS for years, that's an incredible response time. That is really, now, New York City has almost every single firehouse plus, so they're in every neighborhood, and they would be happy to have close to that response time. The average call time, that means how long they're on the call, was 40 minutes. They did talk about the TVAC club at the high school, which has about 20 students as members, and this is one of the things that's valuable for our community about TVAC is they have a lot of students who ultimately want to go to med school, perhaps, who join to get the experience, and it's a good way to do it. They get the experience, our town benefits, they get tremendous training, it's endless training, and it has paid off. They have saved lives in our town, so that is it. Oh, good news from TVAC, because at the prior meeting, and I wasn't going to raise it until they knew more, one of their 2 ambulances kept breaking down. very bad when ambulance and you only have 2 breaks down. They were afraid they were going to have to come to us and ask for a new ambulance next spring. Turns out they brought it to a mechanic who said the computer chip just needs to be upgraded. They upgrade the computer chip, $500. We have a beautiful working rig. So, credit to Tenafly.
Was this after community night? Because I sat with them and spoke with them a little bit.
They were planning on getting that done before community. Because I had spoken to them before.
That's fabulous.
Yeah, so saved a ton of money, $500. Excellent. And it's amazing how much from their own funds that they actually put into that, including they're going to be upgrading their security cameras and not asking us for the money. So a lot of credit to them. Those are my reports. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan, you have any report on?
Yes, the Green Team met before the Environmental Commission. As Jimmy stated earlier, the Zayden Lee, the Boy Scout, will be working this Saturday to start the repairs on the community garden. And community night was probably it's my favorite night in the year. Big shout out to the PBA and RAC department for getting everything done this year. I tried this spring. I'm going to try again next spring to add something to the budget to enhance that night.
Okay.
So we have a little skin in the game as well.
Wonderful. Anything else?
That's it.
Okay. All right, we're going to move on to new business. Okay, Dan, you read the first ordinance, right?
Yeah, I can read.
Councilman Grossman, would you like to do 22-17? Would you like to make a motion for 22-17, please?
Half a second on that, would love to.
Take your time.
My computer doing a little before it went to sleep.
Is it awake now?
It is. I move to introduce on first reading ordinance 22-17 and set the hearing for October 6, 2022 at 8 p.m. or as soon thereafter.
Could I have a second, please? Okay, Omar, could you please read the title of the ordinance and conduct a roll call?
Ordinance number 22-17, an ordinance of the Borough of Tenafly, County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, amending Chapter 19, solid waste management of the Code of the Borough of Tenafly. Councilwoman Bacon. Councilmember Grossman.
Yes.
Councilmember Bennett. Yes. Councilmember Michaels.
Yes.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor.
Yes, and I wanted to also thank Wendy for all her help on this one. Yeah.
Councilmember Park.
Yes.
Okay, 22-18, non-represented salary ordinance. Vanu, would you like to make the motion, please?
Sure. I move to introduce on first reading ordinance 22-18 and set the hearing for October 6, 2022 at 8 p.m. or sooner.
Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Omar, could you please read the title of the ordinance and conduct a roll call?
Ordinance number 22-18, an ordinance to amend section 1 of ordinance 22-12 to fix the salary, wage, or compensation of certain management, administrative, civilian dispatchers, and part-time employees of the Borough of Tenafly, in the County of Bergen, and State of New Jersey for the calendar years 2020, 2021, 2022, and 2023. Councilmember Dayton. Councilmember Grossman.
Yes.
Councilmember Bennett.
Yes.
Councilmember Michaels.
Yes.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor.
Yes.
Councilmember Park.
Yes.
Okay, 22-21, amend Chapter 2, Administration of Government. Adam, would you like to make the motion, please?
I move to introduce on first reading ordinance 22-21, set the hearing for October 6, 2022 at 8 p.m. or as soon thereafter.
Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Omar, could you please read the title of the ordinance and conduct a roll call?
Ordinance number 22-21, an ordinance of the Borough of Tenafly, County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, amending Chapter 2, Administration of Government, Article 2, General Organization of the Code of the Borough of Tenafly to create a new section titled Defense and Implementation. Councilmember Dayton. Councilmember Grossman.
Yes.
Councilmember Bennett.
Yes.
Councilmember Michaels.
Yes.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor.
Yes.
Councilmember Park.
Yes.
Okay, 22-22, amend Chapter 5, Animal Control. Councilwoman Dr. O'Connor, would you like to make the motion, please?
Yes, thank you. I move to introduce on first reading ordinance 22-22, that set the hearing for October 2022 at 8 o'clock p.m. or as soon thereafter.
Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Omar, could you please read the title of the ordinance and conduct the roll call?
Ordinance number 22-22, an ordinance of the Borough of Tenafly, County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, amending Chapter 5, Animal Control of the Code of the Borough of Tenafly, to prohibit the sale of dogs and cats by retail pet stores. Councilmember Daly? Councilmember Grossman?
Yes.
Councilmember Bennett?
Yes.
Councilmember Michaels?
Abstain.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor?
Yes.
Councilmember Parker?
Yes.
So it's the first reading, so, okay. Okay, wonderful, that's the new business ordinances, thank you, everyone. For my mayor's remarks, I'm going to have one general comment. I want to talk about community night. It was just a fabulous night. The police department and the recreation department did a yeoman's outstanding job. I mean, every year it just keeps getting better and better. This year, and here's the standard I'm going to judge by measurement tool. Typically, the police last year had about 400 hot dogs. This year they had 700 hot dogs and gave everything away. And that doesn't include all the great food that the Elks made. The DPW did a fabulous job with the setup and keeping control of the whole physical event. So thank you to the DPW workers. Our citizen volunteers who are out there manning booths, doing everything. Again, more people this year. The band was there. And the businesses. Thank you to the businesses for supporting the community through being there, writing checks, bringing food, serving people, staying long after it's dark. So, I mean, it was really a fabulous event. I think everybody did a great job.
Mayor, if I just make just one addition
Go ahead.
to that, about the businesses, everything was by donation.
That's fabulous. That's fabulous. It really shows the strength of the community. Okay, on that comment, we're going to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, have a good night, everyone. Thank you.
I knew I never could, know that I